Welcome to the Liberty Today podcast. I'm Cody, and this is my co-host Alex. Um, last episode we talked a lot about political violence. We brought that up a lot, and today we want to correlate that with mental health because I think that's starting to become a serious problem in America. We've seen it. We've seen a lot of violence with riots, assassinations, specifically of Charlie Kirk, and I strongly believe that this is because of the aggressive political rhetoric that we see on any social media site, all of media. Alex, you have a bit more knowledge on mental health than I do. How does mental health correlate to political violence?
Yeah. So as someone who took Psychology 101 my freshman year of college, I am an expert here. I do have a degree.
Oh yes, yes.
Now, what'd you say at the end there? What was the question?
How does mental health really correlate to political violence? Do you have a more
Well,
smooth way of describing it than I would?
well, I think we briefly talked about it in the last episode, which is that you're gonna have issues of people. Mental illness is both connected and detached from political violence, and the reason I say that is because these mental ill people already existed before this political rhetoric got to a point where we were seeing political violence. The political rhetoric is enacting them. It's enabling that issue in their brain, right? So
Right.
I think when we're seeing this connection, it's becoming a thing where you're talking about people who have these illnesses, these cognitive defects, right? They are missing some kind of faculty in their brain, and you hear these leaders and these politicians and these famous celebrities saying that this person's a Nazi, this person's a threat to people's lives, you know. They want to eradicate this group of people that's odd, right? Whatever that may be. And so you're enabling these people to go, well, I'm kind of a loser, but this person's a threat. No one seems to like him. I don't like what he's saying. Well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to kill him, right? We had that with
Yeah,
Trump.
they're saying as close as they can to saying it without it being illegal. If this guy was dead, your world would be better.
Yeah. Yeah, they're essentially they're getting as close to saying kill this person. They are getting as close to saying that as possible, and there are so many mental ill people in this country that are going to be willing to do that. Okay, and so mental illness as a whole is an issue with this country. And realistically, I do think if we don't even have to necessarily talk about political violence. I think political violence of recent events is making it more of a forefront in discussion, because we're starting to go, okay, hold on. There are actually mentally ill people in this country, and they're doing crazy things. And this is what's worse about it too. So this is even I don't know if this is political as much as societal. So there's a lot of societal issues with this, because not only are these people doing these things and being enabled by your leaders and your politicians, they're being given that heroic thing that they were waiting for. They're doing this because they want to be a hero, and you have an entire aisle of people, like a huge percentage of the population, making them these heroes, right? Where you have people like Luigi Mangione, who is a cold-blooded killer, who deserves to be in prison. I don't care what advocacy he was trying to enact. I don't care what message he was trying to get across. You killed someone in cold blood. I think you are more evil. That's just how it goes for me. Now, when you celebrate that person and you're saying, this guy's too hot for prison, this guy's too smart for prison, look how cool he is. No, like, this guy actually killed a bad dude. Those are the problems, because you dehumanize the person who is the victim, and you give this ego to the person who's the criminal. And so what happens then? Copycats. Copycats see that and they go, whew, wait, hold on. I can do something evil, and half the country is gonna think I'm a hero. They're gonna post my picture around saying, "Free him." You know, they're gonna help pay for my legal fight with a GoFundMe. So this mental illness stuff is a social and political issue, and they're having a huge effect on our country. And we'll get farther into that, but I know you want to butt in here, so I'll let you do that.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right because I have in my notes here mostly centers towards the political stuff, but that's really it's really just the political stuff that gets on the screen quicker because it's more hot. But that's
Yeah.
just one side of it. There, the killing of Irina Zarutska, I believe that's her name. That after we got some audio recordings, that dude that stabbed her said, "Yeah, I got that white bitch." What do you
Did he
think? Where
say
do you think
bitch?
that came from?
I don't know if he said. There was I got that white girl, but I know he said white. Yeah. Um.
He used strong language, and he clearly had some vendetta against her, even
Yeah.
though she didn't say a word to him. It was something that was ingrained into his head from somebody else. And
Ooh. We're definitely
he,
getting in. We're definitely getting into rough waters, I guess.
yeah, I don't want to. I'm not gonna go in. I'm not gonna go down that too deep, but
Um.
that's just a specific example
I think it would be
that
this. It
just to
yeah.
kind of peer into what's going on in
It's
people's heads in this country, how people can get
yeah.
radicalized, and people, if a sane person watches TV and somebody says, hey, the world would be better if this guy was dead, they wouldn't think, oh, okay, we need to kill him. But those people that have mental health issues could look at that and say, oh, maybe I need to be the one who saves everybody else.
Yeah. I think
that's
I
exactly
forget who
what you're
said it.
saying.
I forget who said it. It was a quote. Man, it was a interview I was watching, and they bring up a good point. And this goes back to the presidential election with Trump, and it was they asked the question: if you were alive during Adolf Hitler's reign, and someone told you what Adolf Hitler was going to do, right? Would you not feel an obligation to then kill said Adolf Hitler? Of course.
I remember hearing that question.
Of course. Because you know what's going to happen, right? So then, if you attach someone so evil and as crude as Adolf Hitler to anyone, well, all of a sudden, that feeling of, oh, I should probably kill Adolf Hitler, amplifies. Because if you're telling me that guy's literally Adolf Hitler, the guy who did the Holocaust, right? The guy who led to the deaths of millions of people, one life for millions, that seems like a fair trade-off, right?
Yeah,
You're fueling something that doesn't need fueled. You're encouraging something that shouldn't be encouraged. No,
I don't
notably,
like
we don't support Adolf Hitler.
I don't want to point fingers too much, but when you see on all of mainstream media such aggressive rhetoric, it does typically come from the left side towards the right. But unfortunately now I was scrolling through X. There are some right-wing people starting to advocate for violence against the left now too, almost saying like, hey, they deserve it. Look what they did. It seems like it could come full circle, and it's just growing into such a massive problem.
Well, the problem is it already is growing, and all it is finger pointing, because
yeah,
you get to a point where, like, one of my problems with the Charlie Kirk assassination was immediately both sides were claiming it was the other person's person. Oh, he's a MAGA extremist. Oh, he's a leftist nut.
They both claim it's Israel.
Both, yeah, it's the Jews did it. And it's like, guys, how about we mourn first? How about we let evidence come out? And we'll figure that out. A time and a place. Hour in, and everyone's going, it's a MAGA extremist. This guy was clearly a Republican advocate. No. Let's be real. No Trump supporter would kill Charlie Kirk. That just doesn't make sense, and it's a lie. And I'm glad many people got punished for saying that lie.
Well, you mentioned people getting punished. That makes me think of Jimmy Kimmel specifically.
And him getting unpunished quite quickly, and then coming back and giving one of the worst, most fake apologies I've ever seen in my life.
It was a half apology. It was kind of like, hey, I'm going to apologize just enough to try and seem genuine and get some people off my tail, but I don't quite want all my staff to quit, so I'm just going to tippy toe and hope everybody forgets.
Dude came out like Logan Paul after videotaping a dead corpse, man. Like, that's what it was, man.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, this guy is coming out with, like, I've made a continuous and great lapse in my judgment. I was like, what are you talking about here, dude? What are you talking about? No, dude, you gotta watch that video. That was old. That's old. But yeah, Logan Paul's apology. Great video. Great content. You should watch it.
He said something along the lines of like, it seems people misconstrued what I said to think that I was calling him a MAGA supporter.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I truly did not mean for you to think that I said that.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm sorry, but.
The only issue I'm having here is finding out where the joke was supposed to be.
It was in his face.
It's in his ratings. Which he gets this massive boost. Listen, this is the same massive boost in viewerships that the WNBA gets when Caitlin Clark is playing. Or a dildo gets thrown on the
I was going to say, I thought I was going towards the dildo gambling spree.
Sure. There's a momentary jump in the viewership. But just because there's a massive jump in a single moment doesn't all of a sudden make it permanent. If his ratings were in the dumpster before it happened, and it's up because of a massive political highlight, right, that the entire country was seeing unfold, sure, yeah, I would hope he'd have pretty good viewership after such a great PR campaign for him. We had a great campaign there. The president was talking about him, right? Yeah, that's gonna get people onto your show. Now, tell me how his viewerships look in 2 weeks, a month. They don't. Okay, they're gone. Sorry. Back to normal. Jimmy Kimmel won't have much going for him. But I want to go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say maybe we should jump off Jimmy Kimmel since he's nothing already. So
true.
He's not worth our air.
I want to get a little bit deeper still into mental illness because I don't think I want to clarify. I'm more concerned. Again, political and social issues are enabling, but it is not the root cause. The root cause is that we have a mental health crisis in this country.
It's like the symptom.
It is a symptom. It's not the disease. And the wrong approach is to try to cure the symptom when we need to be focused on the disease. And that is one of our worst, I think one of the worst problems, medical-wise, in the country. I think the mental health crisis is not covered enough. I think we have high record of anxieties. We have high record of depression. We're seeing high records of bipolar disorders and all this. And of course, the question is always, is this real? Is this overdiagnosing? Is there something that we're consuming? Is there something we're doing? Is there something... And consuming not just food. I'm not just talking about Red 40. I'm talking, are we consuming too much content online? Am I seeing too many people die on Twitter?
Is it the endocrine system?
It's not the endocrine system. But that's part of the problem is what's causing this. I do think it's overdiagnosed, right? I think everyone and their mother now has anxiety diagnosis and ADHD. Everyone has it. Everyone's given it. And so, but there are genuine cases, right? We genuinely have people with schizophrenia. We genuinely have psychopaths, sociopaths, people with massive levels of depression, massive level of anxiety. And these don't come without risk to the general population. I'm not saying these people shouldn't have the chance to live, obviously, among civilized society. I don't think they're bad people. I'm not saying I'm without my own flaws. I have my own flaws. I know them. I know them very well. And
I'm perfect, so I can't relate, but continue.
You're really ugly. But so I guess you double down. I guess you really need your perfect personality.
Yeah, dude, the perfect interior is hidden by the flawed exterior. That's what it really is. It's all a mask.
Yeah.
You can't handle perfection.
But gosh, you lost my train of thought there. I was cooking for a little bit there, man.
You were cooking, and I turned off the stove, but
you took my steak off the pan.
Took your steak off the pan. I think there's a lack of mental institutionalization in the United States because Yeah,
Make
I think it
Psych
has a bad
Wards
rap.
Great Again.
That's what we should do. We have Maha, Make America Healthy Again. Make
Make
America
Psych
Massa, Make
Wards
America Sane
Great
Again.
Again. I want Psych Wards back.
Because I think the view of a mental institution like a psych ward in your head is gonna be this like Russian sleep experiment type thing where people are
listen.
where
Yeah.
people are put in these
No.
padded like these white padded rooms
And those
banging
exist.
their head off of the wall.
Those happened, and I want to explain now. The psych ward system that we had here in America was awful. It was terrible. It was one of the worst. It was bad. The stories and the nightmare cases that came out of it were despicable. It was gross. The abuse.
Well, I have some history of it actually.
Yeah, do you really?
Yeah, it was let's see here. So Thomas Kirkbride, he was a psychiatrist, and he had an idea that that in order to treat people with mental illness, they needed to make a very open, like sunlit environment for people that made it just seem like they were living in the normal world as best as they could. That's why you had these very large buildings with super long corridors, and they only housed like a couple patients because they wanted it to be a vast space so people could feel very open and free. But as more and more people got admitted, they started getting overcrowded, like hundreds or even thousands times what their intended capacity was. And then you start having those issues where people are treated awfully, where people die in there, get crushed, fires, and all the other awful things you think of when you think of a psych ward. And it was proven that his idea was flawed. It did not work.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to repeat that again. It won't happen.
No, and to clarify, we do have mental hospitals. I just don't think they're to scale or utilized the way that they should be. And also I'd note that it's always difficult because, I mean, psych wards are like any confinement kind of system is going to be some level of what I guess you could say is traumatizing. And of course, if you're especially if you are someone with a mental illness, right? You're being taken out of your comfort zone and be placed in this area where you aren't in full control of your life. Sure, there's a lot to get used to. And I'm not saying civilized people should go there permanently. I'm not saying that this should be a common place, but there should be mental institutions. There needs to be systems of certain people want, like, for example, if you get diagnosed with like a depression, anxiety, something like that, serious conditions of those forms, you need to have on your daily or your typical medical routine, right? So you know how you see a dentist every 6 months, you see your physical doctor, your physician every 6 months. That should be a part of it. If you are diagnosed with one of those conditions, you need to go see a therapist or a psychiatrist. X amount of months.
Potential liability to society.
You are.
We see a lot of crimes that happen are from people with these reported mental
But this is a
illnesses.
part of the infrastructure. It isn't just one part. I'm not saying psych ward should be the only thing brought back. I think this is I want a total infrastructure reform from from your local doctor offices up to, at the worst case, actual psych wards. Because I want to note that someone who is mentally ill, and we're talking about people who genuinely get to use a guilty plea, but a what's that? An insanity pleading insanity in a criminal case, right? I want those people to not end up in prison, but in institutions. I think many mental illnesses cause crimes, and I don't think those people are fit for prison. I don't think they fully comprehend what they did. I don't think they should be shoved in prisons where they can get beat and hurt. I'd rather them go to an institution where they can be monitored, where they can be exited from civilized society, but still get to continue to live some kind of, not normal life, but something of normalcy, depending on the crime, obviously. If you murder someone, you murdered someone, right? Like, there's no, I don't care what's your problem.
I'd like to chime in. I think there's a trope that a murderer can simply just plead insanity and get a shorter sentence and go, and instead of going to prison, they go to a mental institution. But they don't realize we're actually pretty good at figuring out if you're actually insane or not.
Yes. Well,
it's really difficult to fake it because being insane enough to not be able to go to jail and have to be put into an institution for the rest of your life, the way that they do it, the way that they kill people is so vastly different, and it'd be such a tough act. I don't think many people ever have been able to pull it off, at least not recent in modern times.
Yes, no, people have. So in the legal process, from what I understand as someone within the court system, I'm not a lawyer, obviously. This isn't legal advice, anything like that. But from what I can see from the structure and the procedures, at least in this state, what happens is it's going to be professionally done. And there's one question that needs to be answered, essentially, for this insanity case to really happen. It is, do you understand that what you did was wrong? Right? If you don't have the faculty to understand what you did was wrong, then you are insane. That's the insanity case there. For example, if someone with autism, low-functioning autism, they do not comprehend things very well, ends up accidentally killing their sibling, they are not going to get sent to prison because they did not have the cognitive ability to understand, first, that they had murdered someone. They don't understand that. Nor do they understand that life is gone, right? They don't understand these things. That's an example of a time where the insanity case actually might be played into effect, where you genuinely, their professional expert testimony will state this person does not understand that what they did was wrong. Period. That is what that typically means. That is why you're right to say that most people who can try to claim insanity probably won't get it. Because if you can rationally process the fact that if you plead insanity, you might end up at a mental institution instead of prison, you probably have the cognitive facilities to know that what you did was bad. Because you're thinking your two choices are psych ward or prison, not, oh, I didn't do this, or what I did wasn't that bad, right? I should just be free. What are you talking about? Right?
It's often it's like, why did you flee the scene? Why'd you try and cover it up? Why did you do this? You said you hated the person, so many things that don't add up ever.
I'm not a full legal expert, so maybe there's more nuance to it, but from what I've read and what I understand, that's essentially what that means. So what I will confirm is what you probably are saying, which is it's 100% not what you see on TV, right?
Yeah, it's not like, hey, this guy pleaded insanity, he's going to get away with it. He's going to get out in 10 years instead of a life sentence. It's like, no. Assume he does get away with it and his plea for insanity works. Now he's just in an institution for the rest of his life.
The institutions may not always actually be as good or better than prison. And I always like to remind people in every faculty of life, better does not mean good, right? Just because this psych ward is better than prison doesn't mean it's great. Being better than prison is not great. That's not a good metric. Right?
That's like taking the limbo bar from the literal floor up maybe an inch.
Well, that's like peeing yourself and going, at least I didn't shit myself. Like, no, like that's still bad. It's like, yeah, it's better than I guess shitting yourself, but you still pissed yourself.
Maybe like a wet fart, full on shitting yourself. I feel like anything's just like man, I don't know.
So
it's like dripping into your sock.
So I want to answer this then, and I know this gets brought up then because we're talking about massive infrastructure change, and I know there's a question that most people would ask, which is the financial burden.
Of course.
And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Something that I like to pose to many people, at least in a civilized society, is that there are costs to being civilized, right? I don't complain how costly, to reason, right? There's a reasonable cost. Obviously, I think we get overcharged for some of our military things. That's super clear, by the way, right? Yeah. I think there's a massive
to make that more
price gouging that our military gets charged, right? Military grade does not mean good, right? But within reason, right? I'm not ever going to complain about the justice system being too expensive. We need the justice system. I'm not going to complain that prisons are too expensive. Prisons need to be a thing. We need somewhere to put people who are not set to be in civilized society. We don't have a civilized society if we don't have that, right? So there are certain things that I'm willing to accept the cost of for the betterment of society. And that's something I think most people need to start coming around to understand that there are just costs to being a part of a civilized society. That's just life, right? There's costs to being alive, right? There's costs to being here now. I have to, if I want to drive my car, I have to pay for gas and I have to pay for insurance. Sorry, you can't just do the fun thing and not have the expenses that come with it. You want a civilized society, you need to fork up some cash. And so part of that, for me, mental institutions go right under the justice system in that same faculty of going, they're needed. This infrastructure is needed. And the longer we take to implement it, the longer it takes to start building up a plan of taking care of behavioral problems, the more we're going to see problems. The more political violence is going to get out of control. The more radicals are going to get pushed to actually commit these insane crimes. But even then, even if we're not talking about headliner crimes, right? Recently, it's been brought up because we see headliner crimes. This is stuff that's happening every single day. This isn't like a once in a while public official gets assassinated, right? This is stuff that's reality. That people who are having psychological problems are murdering people today, right now, as we talk. So this isn't a small problem. This is a big problem. And if we're not even just talking about murder, right, I'd bring in the fact that people are killing themselves. And I don't want people to kill themselves. And we'll probably have to blurb some of that out for YouTube. But, right? So
I think unaliving is the term.
Unaliving, sorry.
Gen Z term.
Yes.
Unaliving. I hate that word.
No longer with us. But it's reality, right? That people are dying, whether through their own means towards themselves or towards others. And that's not a part of a civilized society. A civilized society doesn't do that. And if we aren't willing to fork up the cash to fund that program, then we bear the cost of what comes after that. And then so if it means our cities are less safe, right? The nighttime is less safe. Our streets are less safe, our children are less safe, then we bear that cost. So the question is, what's the cost of a life? And then if we can answer that question, then you can tell me what's the cost of having these mental institutions and increasing the scale at which we take care of mental patients. I think that's where I'm at right now in this debate.
Yeah, I want to plus one to that, and then maybe we move on to the next topic. The cost to increase it, like to institutionalize more mental health patients, that crime is a burden on our economy, not just on our lives. So there's a chance that you could earn back some of the costs of institutionalization just by the reduced crime that it could cause, if we could correlate it. I think that's something else to be considered. Maybe it won't be too severe, but it's not like this is just going to be a net burden economically. You could see, just like how illegal immigration enforcement pays itself back in dividends. It could be a similar, but not such an extreme extent.
Yeah, I don't know how that actually scales up. I don't know if I've seen economic reports or briefs like that. I'd be interested if they exist. I think you can make an argument for it. I think safer environments in general foster better investments. So I'm more willing to invest in a town if the town has a more clean, less crime-ridden area. Property increases in that area if there's less crime-ridden. So I can kind of understand that concept. Maybe if you want to argue the fact that if we have more prisoners in mental institutions or people in mental institutions, we have more cheap labor. But I also don't particularly enjoy that part of our justice system.
Yeah, that seems a little...
But hey, man, someone's got to pick up that roadkill. It ain't going to be me.
1865 there.
Yeah, listen, depends what they did, but, I appreciate the roadkill not being on the streets on the next time I'm
True.
driving to work. So hey, someone's got to do it.
Well, yeah, let's leave on a good note. Maybe we should talk about the interest rate cut on the Federal Reserve.
We can.
That's
new news.
It was
old news.
New,
a little bit.
Old news.
Ongoing news because it's still progressing.
I think rumor has it set to drop even more.
Yeah, it could.
No,
it's set to. It's set to drop more.
So it was cut by 0.25%. So it's now 4%.
Good.
Mortgage rates are down to 6.25%.
Terrible.
Yeah, you said that's terrible. I say I have no idea. So maybe if you would like to chime in on what the mortgage rate means, and maybe explain the federal interest rate a bit, because I don't understand it too well, and I feel like a lot of people don't. They just kind of see it and know that it's maybe better.
Yeah, we can.
I don't understand the purpose of the Fed too much, but I just kind of understand how they impact us.
We won't go into huge detail with it because I think there's videos out there that describe it way better than I can. I'm not an economist. But the general idea is that the Fed interest rate is the interest rate that other banks, that's the interest other banks are lending to each other. And so whatever they're lending to each other's interest, they're paying on those. And that kind of goes back to the consumer, right? So if they're 4%, we might see probably an average of 6%, which is what you're seeing at mortgage rates. 6.26% is awful for a mortgage. I think that's bad for a car, right? Right now, so you're talking right, so like for 6.26% over the term of a car loan, which again the loans work differently, right? So for a car, that interest rate increases every single day, which is why you can't make a principal-only payment with a lot of other forms of debt. You can with a mortgage. Mortgage goes by monthly. Other loans go by daily. So there are loan differences that equal up differently. Again, this is stuff that other videos and other YouTubers can go into way bigger depth than I can. But at the
We're
face
only here
of
for
it,
the news, guys.
Yeah. At the face of it, you're talking 6% of $300,000 added to your total house purchase over the term of 30 years. That's a lot of money that you are going to pay to own your house, right? The $300,000 is already a lot. That 6% is going to kill people. And it kills me to think that people are actually buying houses at 6%. I would, from what I understand, and personally for me, a rate that I'd be comfortable with is like 3%. 3% is a good mortgage rate, right? 2 is better, right? Anything less than 3. But 3 is where you want to be. 6 is still double what's comfortable for most financial health for any individual. So, yeah, it's still not great. I think those...
No wonder there's so many crazies out there. They can't buy a house.
No one can buy a house, right? And so this is the big thing, right? I think the Fed cut is necessary. I'm okay with it taking longer because I think that's smart. I'm not big on rapid change in the economy. The economy does not like rapid change. That's not their big thing.
Have you ever done weight training? You gotta shock the system to make it grow. Drop it down to 0%.
Not economics. That's a good way to cause a lot of issues. So slow interest rate dropping is good. I agree.
I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
If the interest rate continues to drop, would the mortgage rate follow it, or are they unrelated?
No, they are. They're completely related. The mortgage rates will continue to drop as interest rates drop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's what I was getting to, which is why I'm excited for the interest rates and why I'm excited for them to continue to drop. I'm okay with the slow method, but I'm excited for where they should be and where they can be getting to, which is that I know for a fact we're about to see a big boom in the economy. It is going to be crazy, the purchasing power that the American people will have. I think it's going to be... I don't think you and I have ever lived in a world where we're about to see the purchasing power of Americans.
No, I mean, I just got into it pretty much.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah.
We got cognitive functions, right? When we develop our cognitive functions, the 2008 housing crisis occurred, okay?
The year I got my car, gas went up to like $6 a gallon.
I was glad that I had a car. My first car, I was during the Trump administration where it was like $1.50. So I was.
Yeah, did you know my first car? I was screwed.
Yeah, I was very happy. I was filling it up for like $20, and so my car got like 40 miles to the gallon. So I was not filling that thing up much. But the point being is,
I paid like $1,000 a week, dude.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Oh my god.
Well, I'm exaggerating. I'm a little hyperbolic.
Well, but probably a little
Jeep
accurate.
in the Biden economy.
That's not great, man.
Sorry to throw you off track, though.
No, but realistically, you have a massive amount of Americans currently waiting to buy houses. They're waiting to buy cars. They're waiting for those big purchases, and they're waiting for the interest rates to drop. And so you're going to see a huge boom in house sales. You're going to see a huge boom in car sales. And so, it's going to become a very healthy market. It's going to become you always hear this debate of whether or not it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. And I really do think we're going to be at a point where, it might be such a close margin where it's almost a win-win for both buyers and sellers. It really will be. And so I hope it continues this way. I hope if this optimism I have right now is accurate, because the economy is unpredictable. You can predict it, but there are just things that can happen. Random war can break out, and all of a sudden this all goes away. So I'm optimistic for the future. I think in the next, I'm speculating probably sometime after Christmas, going into January, that the economy is going to start. You're going to really start seeing the effects of the current administration policies and what they're doing, and especially these Fed rates. I think you're going to start really seeing the economy take off. Not booming, but I do think by end of Christmas or past Christmas, we're going to start seeing some good stuff. That's my prediction, but that's about all I got.
That would be great.
It would be great.
It'd be an awesome new year. But
it would be.
I have my source here, CNN. They brought an expert, Terry Savage, and she stated that the prices it was a woman, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just not used to Terry being a savage.
Oh, I thought you were trying to say something about women in general. I was gonna say like, whoa, man.
No, I'm just not used to Terry. You say Terry Savage, I think this is some bald dude. Go ahead.
Maybe second guess myself, but no, I'm pretty sure I was a woman. I remember. But she stated that the prices of goods are going to continue going up and blamed it on tariffs. Now, my personal opinion from what I've seen so far with how tariffs are going, they seem to be actually bringing a lot of income towards the federal government. And providing the American people a lot of tax breaks with that big, beautiful bill. I don't know how accurate that statement is.
So it's hard. So one, I actually don't know if the big beautiful bill and its funding is related totally to the tariffs. I know it's involved, but I didn't know if how much of those tax breaks and tax credits were actually going to be funded by the tariffs. To clarify, she's not wrong. Your prices of goods are going to go up. They are going up in certain areas.
Yeah.
That is the result of putting a massive tax on goods coming in from other countries. And that is on us. We pay that as consumers. That's just how it goes. So the money that the feds are making is partially also what we're paying. When I buy that product that went up, that's my taxes. I paid those tariff. It's put onto the consumer. But that's the point of tariffs, right? And I don't want to negate the fact that the whole idea of a tariff is that you can buy and have access to this foreign good, but it's going to cost you more, and you can't outprice yourself from the American market, and so that American-made goods. Go ahead.
Another thing we're seeing too is that a lot of these broad tariffs have been centralized to specific countries like China, because most of our allies that we imposed tariffs on, we ended up getting deals with, and now we're opened up to several more markets and we're getting better deals coming to us.
I honestly think the reality was that some of these deals were probably partially negotiated before the publicity came out. I think more deals. I knew deals were going to come out with our allies, and I think more deals are set to come out in the coming week. I'm pretty sure he is currently. I thought he teased another deal coming out with like India or something, or did I think it might have already happened. Either way, I also speculate that this was also just going to be an excuse to start a trade war with China, right?
Yeah.
Look,
I'm all for.
Don't worry,
China
guys.
was-
Look, China, I'm doing it to everyone. Jeez.
China.
Yeah. So I'm perfectly okay with the trade war with China. Trump was already doing this, by the way. I want to note that, by the way, Trump already had tariffs going in his first term. People ask him, why didn't he do this his first term? He did, and they were quite successful. So successful, by the way, that Biden did keep them. Right?
I do remember that.
The China
Biden's
taraffs
first day in
never went
office-
away.
Biden's first day in office, he destroyed so much stuff that Trump did, but the tariffs, he was like, oh, well, I mean, credit where credit's due, I guess.
Yeah, well, no credit really, but
Well, it's my credit now, but you know.
So no, I don't think she's totally inaccurate, but that's like, again, that's the whole point of a tariff, is that the goods of foreign goods goes up. That's just what it's supposed to do, and those prices go up, and then American made stuff stays the same, and so you actually kind of, okay, well, if it's more American made, it's actually cheaper, and so okay, all of a sudden I'm buying American company and American products, which I think you could argue whether or not, I think there's a whole nother debate, and maybe we won't get into it today, about whether or not that's actually a smart idea. I'm not always on the full side that America should go back to being a manufacturing country. That's not how we make our wealth anymore. It doesn't even have to be. We have such great jobs that people don't have to work manufacturing. I really don't think many Americans want to work manufacturing. The steel mills are not fun. I don't know. I've never worked in one, but I've seen people work in them.
Buddy, speak for yourself, chump.
Yeah, I know you're a nice, happy blue-collar guy, but that is not great conditions, not very safe, and you come back.
If I keep this
smelling
up, I'll
pennies.
be blind in my 30s.
Exactly.
Hey.
Dude, you look
All
older
right.
than me.
Okay, white. No, I don't. Okay, white collar boy. I guess Terry's concern about prices going up due to tariffs. I feel like a lot of that is focused directly on our tariffs on China. And
China.
And that takes me back to what you said earlier when we were in the segment about what's the cost of life. I'm going to change it though. What's the cost of America being a country? So if you think about it like that, because China is trying to infiltrate every single market that we have to the point where they overproduce everything and are spreading themselves out, selling to everybody. It's almost like completely unsustainable.
So the real question that you should have asked, the real question you should have posed is, what's the price of security?
Yeah, but I wanted to try and tie it back and be thanks.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, back to my monologue, okay? China is trying to infiltrate every single market.
I thought this was supposed to be, by the way, a conversation. Okay.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, you done?
Yeah, I'm done debating.
Okay.
My bad.
China is infiltrated or trying to infiltrate every market we have in an attempt to undermine our very constitutional republic. It's not conspiracy. They kind of say it out loud.
Well, no, we literally know that they buy our land. They buy land here.
They buy land from us. I don't think they should be allowed to. Be totally honest.
No foreign entity should be able to buy our
and
land.
They are an adversary. They say they are. They say they don't like us and they don't want our culture to exist. So, if they're trying to undermine us economically, and they're giving us awful trade deals and trying to infiltrate all our markets, why shouldn't we pull levers to stop that from happening and cripple them in that regard so they can't do that to us anymore? So we have that security. Even if it's at the price of, the price of goods from them, which a moral argument is it's slave labor. But I mean, I think that's reasonable. Yeah. It's a tough thing to sell to the average American because times are kind of tough. So people are having trouble getting by. So they don't like seeing prices of everyday things rising, especially since so much of our stuff's made in China. But there is a point where we need to put our foot down and say we cannot keep allowing this, or America will cease to exist.
I think it's also important to note that just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's better. And in fact, it was almost never that case. The phrase "you get what you pay for" is a very good one, and it's very accurate. You do not always get what you pay for. So if you buy some $5 thing at Temu, it's probably not going to actually last that long. And we knew this from Shein. Shein was this fast fashion $2 tank top, and it was meant to be worn once. After you threw it in the wash, it was destroyed. It was made with the cheapest materials possible. And so this is a part of the problem. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's good. And the problem is Americans don't want to buy more expensive stuff. I think that's part of the problem with the tariffs is the fact that Americans aren't willing to pay more for American goods. I'm willing to pay a higher premium if it's made in America because I know it has to pass certain regulations. I know it has to pass certain standards. It has
do that for water bottles. Chinese water bottles have lead and other heavy metals in. So if you get them hot, they will leach it into the drink.
But I think this goes into a broader problem with Americans as a whole, which is that we are financially irresponsible, and we're allowed to be. We actually have so many safety nets in America to be financially irresponsible. You can be so financially irresponsible that you can go to court and say, I am so financially irresponsible, I need the courts to say my debt is gone. Right? I'm bankrupt.
It's called confession, buddy.
Yeah.
Well,
and so
that actually,
I think that goes into something I wanted to talk about really deep. Something I find very important. It is this buy now, pay later method. Now, it's gotten a lot of news caption over. I think over the last few months, it's been getting a little bit more attention. There's been talks that it was going to begin affecting your credit score. That credit unions were going to start noticing and getting reports, and they already kind of did, right? So if you affirmed something, I think they still do get notified when you do that because it is technically a line of credit. It is like effectively a credit card. Now, and so now the idea is that it might start affecting your credit score. And so I have a lot of hot opinions on this because I'm someone who actually utilizes buy now, pay later in the way I think it should be used. But I know maybe if you want to tie your thing in, because I know mine will probably be a monologue if I start going. So I want to hear your opinions first, just so I understand.
Well,
coming from a perspective of someone who probably does not use it very often, and someone who's against it completely, from what I understand from you. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So I've never used it before. Well, actually, I guess in a sense I did just recently because I didn't have quite enough money to pay for some head work on my engine. But I just split the payment in half. But that was like an unofficial thing. I'm paying with cash. I think the whole buy now, pay later thing getting more widespread is an issue because, like you said, Americans tend to be financially irresponsible, like you said. So having more options, like the buy now, pay later. Like if I could go buy a pizza tonight with 4 easy payments of $3.99 over the span of 4 months, I think there's going to be a lot more cases of people starting to have those payments add up on them without them even realizing it, and then serious trouble happening in the economy from it. Now, there's a flaw in my argument in that that's the people's fault, not the method.
Yeah.
Because I bet I'm sure there's a lot of good that can come from it too. Because utilizing debt properly can get you very far without having much. So it's a nice thing to have. Yeah. Especially with no credit checks resulting from it. So I think that's where you're gonna tie in. But that's kind of my point. But I have a lot of room to sway because I'm not very familiar with this and I haven't used it before.
So a few things I want to note here, and it is one of the things I want to understand is that there's no credit check because there's no need to have a credit check. because this isn't you actually paying in a credit card. You are just it's this equivalent to rent to own, I guess. But I'm still paying with my debit card, right? When I affirm something, my money is going to go towards it. It's no different from doing like layaways and stuff like that. Now, I think those did affect your credit. I don't know. Layaways were way outside of my time, which again is starting to date us to let people know how old we are, or young.
We're very young.
Yeah, but it's equivalent to me as paying in cash in a convenient way. But I think you note something that's quite important, which is that it's a personal decision. There's financial behavior that's going on. So if we're bringing up the food thing, I am totally against that. If you are buying in payments Chipotle or Starbucks, you're a moron and you deserve to be poor. That's on you. That's you who is doing that. That's not the government. There's no changing that. That's not capitalism doing that to you. If you need to affirm food, okay, you're doing something wrong. Massively wrong.
Special ed.
Go buy the ingredients. It will be 10 times cheaper and you don't have to affirm it and you can make more. If you spent the same amount of money you buy a Chipotle bowl for and just bought the ingredients, you could probably make 5 Chipotle bowls. Now, of course, but then I have to make it. Laziness. Anyways. So,
dude, I've made tacos before. I still go to Taco Bell.
Well, but that's because you actually have the money to go do it and you do it like once a week. Right? Like it's not,
yeah, okay.
It's not an insane, absurd amount of... Well, because these are people who aren't just affirming the food. They're using Affirm through DoorDash, so they're affirming the food, the delivery, and God knows if the tip as
they're
well.
They're affirming their obesity.
Yeah. So I want to get into the fact that what I'm trying to point is that I don't think credit unions should be involved at all. I don't think it's long-term enough, nor really a sign of financial weakness in your credit, right? I don't think... Okay, I should note, yes, if you are struggling to pay for an Affirm, maybe you may not be the most financially savvy person. Yeah, I think if you have over-bloated your Affirm, like you have 10 different things affirmed and you're paying $120 on each of them, right? Obviously that starts getting impactful. My worry is that this isn't going to be the drastic cases. It's going to be every single time you do buy now, pay later, it is going to be shown on your credit and it's going to impact your credit, which tells me that this is a lobbying move and less an actual keeping the consumer in mind kind of move, where credit cards are mad because I can affirm a MacBook or a new iPhone right now for 6 months with 0% interest at $200 a month. And then after 6 months, it's over. I own it. It's done. Now, this is why I want to get into it's beneficial to the American consumer, not a detriment, right? As long as it's used correctly. I'm about to give 2 key pieces of advice, by the way, right now. 1, if you have a credit card, pay it off. Pay it off before you accrue more of that credit card debt. If you just use it for the benefits, the 5% off at Target, the 5% cash back at gas stations, and just pay it off at the end of the month.
Your credit card, you're doing it wrong.
Don't pay the interest. Just pay it off, okay? Don't do that. You're doing it wrong. Enjoy the benefits, not the interests, okay? Number 2, if you're affirming something, go into the mindset of, 1, can you actually afford this thing in cash if you wanted to right now? If the answer is yes, then go for it. Affirm it. Because the reason I do buy now, pay later is not for the fact that I can't afford the thing I'm buying. It's the fact that, sure, I could buy it in cash right now, but then I'm out $1,000 right now, where I don't know what could happen next week. My car might need some kind of repair, and now I'm out $1,000 because I went and got a new sofa. Where if I do this buy now, pay later thing for 6 months at $200 a month with 0 interest, there's no risk. I don't have interest accruing on it. I pay it in small payments, and instead of losing $1,000 right away, you're losing $200 a month. And so you can kind of financially prepare yourself for catastrophes that could randomly occur. Because let me tell you what, finances are not dead set. You can save all the money you want, and you are never fully prepared for what could come out. So you always have to
Yeah,
be conscious
and,
about what could happen to you financially. And so I don't know. I believe very deeply in the buy now, pay later format. I love it. I think it's a way to buy amazing Christmas presents that you know you can afford, but you really want to make sure that you can buy those new snow tires, right? But
snow winters.
yeah, sorry, cutting that out.
Keep it in.
I'm thinking faster than I can talk, man. Give me a break. I had like 3 grape energy drinks, all right?
Hell yeah. You drank them all?
Yeah, I had to taste them all to know which one I liked.
Which one did you like?
None. I didn't drink any of them. I'm kidding. This is just
You're
Coca-Cola.
a liar.
I am a liar.
Discount everything you said today.
Go for it.
You cannot be trusted.
But the point being is I actually think it's great. I think people can afford better Christmases for their kids. I think they can afford better trips for their family. I actually think in some way, and it sounds weird, but the buy now, pay later to me is actually allowing the middle class to be middle class again. And it seems odd to say that because it seems like it's like a debt or detriment. But again, like I said, as long as you're being reasonable, you're not doing the 2 years at 20% like interest, but you're doing the 6 months at 0, 3 months at 0. There's some
2-year payment plan for my bag of Funyuns.
but okay, people think that's crazy, but people do that with credit cards already. Right? At least with Affirm,
except with loads of interest.
You have a guaranteed payment that, by the way, again, you will be paid off. It will be paid off. If you do 6 months on Affirm, 6 months later, it's done. With a credit card, you can pay that minimum payment for 6 months, and it's only gone up. Your balance is somehow going up even though you're making payments. That's because credit cards aren't designed for you to pay them off. They're malicious. And I don't think credit card companies like the buy now, pay later feature, which is why they're implementing it into their credit cards. But of course, you still accrue their interest. But
yeah, do it on your debit card.
Do it on your debit card. That's what it is. That's what it is.
That's why there's no credit check. It's not a credit.
Debit cards. Do it on your debit card. Don't do it on your credit card. Buy now, pay later. And I think you should all be advocates. Even if you don't do it, even if you're against it, I think understanding that not every American has the means to buy things brand new, even though I don't think Americans who work shouldn't have luxury, right? Again, you have to understand your own financial responsibilities. But listen, if you want a new couch, you want a new couch. And if this is the way that you can afford it over a course of certain payments at no interest, go for it. But I don't want to drag this on too long. I'm genuinely just something I'm kind of passionate about and I believe in, and I like the system. I think it's more financially responsible. People are already going to want to buy these luxury goods. I think it's more financially responsible to do it this way than through credit cards, personal loans, or overdrafting your checking account. And that's kind of the argument I'm trying to make here. So I think that ties well with the overall financial discussion that we've been having.
Yeah, it closes it up nice. Let me put in my final thoughts. I haven't really, but I'm not too familiar with this. I'm very new to this whole buy now, pay later thing. So I'm gonna have to think about it more. But I do kind of like the idea. You've kind of sold it to me, where a lot of people get paid bi-weekly. They get their big paychecks every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Dude, so
listen,
something like buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
I feel can have an incredible effect at smoothing the bumps in their budget.
Hell yeah, man.
Where instead of having to wait another 2 weeks for that next paycheck to come in so you can feel secure in case of an emergency, you could just chip away at whatever your expenses are, like for that new couch or for any of those small things. And yeah, it's just it's a consumer thing. People are definitely capable of keeping track of how much they're utilizing it if they wanted to. It's not hard. Yeah. I don't think the system's at fault.
Yeah.
So, Alex, do you have any closing thoughts on any of the topics we went over, like mental health, interest rate cuts?
I think the only things I have to say is that I think anyone who isn't already subscribed and following belongs in a psych ward, maybe? You must be lobotomized.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
No, for real though. Obviously.
Lobotomized.
Yeah. Bring it back.
Yeah, let's bring that back. Make lobotomies great again.
Women were so great back then. No, I'm kidding.
Whoa.
I'm cutting that out. That's getting cut.
They're better when they're brain dead. Is that?
That's getting cut. That's getting cut. That's getting cut.
They already are brain dead.
That's
Okay,
getting
I'll
cut.
stop
That's
talking.
getting cut. That's getting cut. That's getting. This whole segment's getting cut. Anyways,
Damn it.
subscribe, follow along. All of our sources or all of our source links are in the description or somewhere. I don't know how some of these apps work, but they're somewhere, and you can find them. And you should follow every single one of them.
We get them up and running. You better follow.
Well, by the time this episode goes up, they will 100% be up and running. Hopefully,
I'll check every single follower, and if you're not there,
but yeah, that's all I got. You know, make sure you're following the content. Make sure you're following along. We're going to get progressively better at this. I've switched to my laptop instead of my keyboard so that no clicking is heard while doing this. So that's the kind of upgrades you're going to get from the Liberty Today show. And that's what you need to be following. Well, from me.
My keyboard still came from like my 4-year-old computer, and I'm too uncivilized to change it. But I probably will if it's a problem. But
okay.
Check out the website too. We're going to we have a contact page. You let us know if there's anything else you want us to do.
Yes, sir.
Because we're open. We're
as
open
always,
to suggestions. We want to serve you best.
So either way,
too.
Thanks for listening. We're glad to have taken up an hour of your life that you can't get back, and so
we hope you enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed it. All right. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.